So I think everyone's a drummer, and that's the biggest thing that people will forget when their time doesn't feel good.
Mm.
Because it's like for me, like when I'm playing, even when I'm playing in a band, like in my mental mix, I just drums are peaking.
Okay.
Like I'm just fully trying to be in that pocket.
Interesting.
Um, and like I feel like I'm a slightly unique example because I got really, really nerdy with like polyrhythm stuff. Um, where it's like I spent a whole there was a couple months where I was during the time when I couldn't play guitar, I was just shedding polyrhythms the entire time, like being able to do like 3/5 and 4/5 and 3 and 4/5
Right.
at the same time,
Right.
and then doing the same thing with 7 and 9 and 11. And I think I started to do it at 13. I'm like, okay, now this is getting
It's too
stupid.
far. Yeah.
But that in combination with listening to a lot like more prog metal stuff and like Tigran Hamasyan records and like
Hmm.
even like a lot of the Knee Body songs, if you're familiar with them,
I'm not.
like they have it's Nate Wood on drums,
Okay.
and so he's just it's like a lot of like weird
Kind of
groups.
like Amos's leaders type stuff. Like.
Yeah, another,
Okay.
yeah, super into them as well. Um, so a lot of that comes out in my jazz playing,
Mm.
where I feel like I'll be, of course this isn't with the drummer, but like I'm like always like I'm always like that's always going on in my head whenever I'm soloing. Not maybe not for like swinging, but like
Right.
it's like always I'm always just trying to think of like drum fills as like for my phrasing.
That's cool. Yeah.
Um, but in the general pocket, it's kind of like I think part of it is just like it's like audible intention,
Mm.
and you know I think we're like listening to recordings of yourself can really help because there are those moments where you feel like you're really in the pocket and you're really not. But I think that comes back to the thing of like how much of like are you holding on to your own ego within your part in the group, and how much are you just like giving your mental RAM to listening to the other people in the band? Because I think when you do that and you're listening in a very giving way, that's when your pocket's the best.
Mm. I love
Um,
that. So you almost look at it more of like an outward expression of intentionality in some ways than like how in
yeah,
tune am I? It's how in tune I am with the other people. Yeah.
yeah, completely. Because that's really, even if you want to look at it in more of a mathy way, that is the sound of you being in the pocket is how well you're playing with the other people.
Right.
That's like that's what it is.
Right.
Um, so yeah, it's tricky, and because it's gonna be different with every drummer, your pocket's gonna have to shift, and that's the thing I really like about doing like studio stuff is that like I'm constantly just having to search for the best feel for the song.
Mm. Right.
But I think everyone should learn some drums.
Yeah.
If people are looking for like a more practical, like what can I do to get better time? Learn drums and learn bass. If
Right.
you're having trouble locking with a bass player and a drummer, get in their head a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Especially if you can get to the point where you're playing bass, not like a guitar player playing bass,
Hmm.
like learn some James Jamerson lines, learn some Pino lines, like
Yeah.
just
Exactly.
go deep in on the thing,
Hmm.
and you will understand how to lock in a lot more.
Yeah. Where does the metronome fit into that?
Ooh, I used to practice with metronome a lot. Sometimes I don't. I think if like I think if you can easily play with a metronome, it's like it's less important to constantly use it.
Mm.
And if you are one of those dudes where it's like you're like, oh, somehow I'm like now I'm on the two. How did that happen? You need to be playing with a metronome.